Reporter Michael Wolff says he has more than 100 hours, which is absolutely incredible in and of itself. You did a lot of interviews all the way up to his arrest in 2019. Did you, and in all these conversations, did you get a chance to talk to him about whether Trump was aware of Epstein's crimes?
All right. You know, a lot of people, especially those who are staunch supporters of President Donald J. Trump, which is not a problem at all. But a lot of these guys did not know Trump when Trump was a businessman. A lot of these guys they have never even spoken to Donald J. Trump face to face. A lot of them will come out and say Donald Trump would never had done the things that people are alleging or that people are suspecting that he is trying to cover up. They are just saying stuff that they don't even know. The only person who was there, who spoke to Jeffrey Epstein, the only person who has an insight of what may or may not have happened is this man. This is the guy who spoke to Jeffrey Epstein so many times, apart from his lawyers, because his lawyers were getting the side of Jeffrey Epstein they wanted to defend. But this guy was interviewing Jeffrey Epstein. He was talking to Jeffrey Epstein, trying to understand his world. And this is a guy who knows what really happens, because he was, in some cases, he came in and saw what was going on between Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, and some of those models. So any other person, the one other person that people have to kind of question why they are quiet is Trump's wife. She was a model at that time, but she is not saying anything. Why is she quiet? If people are suspecting your husband to have committed some of the worst of the worst crimes against young girls, and if you are the wife and you are not coming out to defend your husband, what says about you? Because these are some of the worst crimes. But if what's her name? Trump's wife is quiet and she's not coming out to defend the husband, then that is something people have to put a question mark on. But this is the guy that knows what was really going on during that time of Jeffrey Epstein and his crimes, and the girls and the models. And again, Donald Trump keeps trying to distance himself away from Jeffrey Epstein. That was his best friend. And that is suspicious. Why is he trying to distance himself from his best friend? And some will say, immediately Donald Trump found out about what Jeffrey Epstein was doing to young girls, he kicked him out of his club. But that is not what happened. And this is the guy who knows what happened. He is the one who can tell us why Trump fell out with Jeffrey Epstein. And immediately Trump fell out with Jeffrey Epstein, that's when Jeffrey Epstein went to jail. The first time he went to jail, he was out. The second time he went to jail was after he fell out with Donald J. Trump, when that friendship expired. But if you really want to understand what was going on in that world, you need to listen to him and him only, because he interviewed Jeffrey Epstein, and he also let's just listen.
Yeah. Trump and women.
Well, I mean, Epstein spoke rather at length about this. I mean, this was, and let's remember the context here. They were friends from the late 80s through to 2004. This was a period in American life when the models were in the zeitgeist, supermodels, people who wanted to be models, and these two men, Epstein and Trump, this was their obsession. They were, I think it was probably the most important part of their lives. Women and money and models.
You see what connects Jeffrey Epstein to Donald J. Trump? Women, money, models. And what did Trump say about Jeffrey Epstein and women? He likes them young. Who owned a pageant? Was it called pageant? It was Donald J. Trump. Jeffrey Epstein was, I think he was supporting the guy who owned the Victoria's Secret models. And so you see the link. People can start to understand the link between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald J. Trump. And people can start to understand why Trump is trying this. He's doing all he can to bury this. Because there's something somewhere that Trump doesn't want people to know. And by the way, Ivanka Trump was a model at 15. It might just be that Trump is trying to cover up something that happened when Ivanka Trump was a model. What about his wife, Melania Trump? She was also a model. Trump might not have committed any crimes. He might not have done something that is going to put him in any legal trouble or is going to maybe finish his presidency. But it might be that Donald Trump is trying to cover up for his wife or maybe his daughter. Or the third one, it might be that there might be a case of money laundering between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Because how come that somebody is your best friend and you're not saying he's a scumbag, he's a piece of shit, he's a bad person, and then listen to this, you were wishing Ghislaine Maxwell well, when Ghislaine Maxwell is an accomplice to Jeffrey Epstein. How do you wish her well? And you say Jeffrey Epstein was a bad person that you don't want. It's like you're trying to disown your friend. You're trying to wash your hand. You're trying to be like, what's his name? Judas. You're trying to wash your hand clean. The same person you used to hang out with. The same person you said yourself that he's a terrific guy. He likes his women young. And now you are trying to tell us that he was a bad person. Something is missing. All these guys who run with conspiracies, you guys have to patch this together and give us a conspiracy. Because there is something that Donald Trump doesn't want the public to know. Or maybe there is something that Donald Trump doesn't want his children to know. Or maybe there's something that Donald Trump doesn't want his wife to know. What about the case when he was sharing one girlfriend with Jeffrey Epstein and both men knew? So when people are trying to say, no, I don't believe that Donald Trump could have done, did you know him? You did not know him then. So how can you just defend somebody you did not even know? He was a businessman under the radar. If Trump had not become president, I don't think anybody would have been talking about this thing now. It would have gone buried. But once you are president, people are going to dig stuff about you. Once you join politics, people are going to dig stuff around you. If you want to lay low, and if you're a criminal, you want to lay low, try not to get into politics. Because once you get into politics, people are going to find out things you've done in your past. Drink driving, domestic violence, people are going to find that. It's going to come out. So if you just want to make your money in a dodgy way, try not to get into politics. because it will come to light.
You know, they were invested in.
I didn't want anything to do with him. Jeffrey Epstein was not somebody that I respected.
That does not fit.
This only a fool, the worst of the worst fool will believe what Donald Trump is saying. There are pictures. He was in your wedding. There are pictures of you, your kids, and Jeffrey Epstein. You yourself said in an interview that he was a terrific guy. You yourself, Donald Trump, you wish Ghislaine Maxwell well. You said you did not know anything. Sometimes you say, I don't know anything about that war. I don't know anything. And then sometimes you say he was a bad guy. So many pictures. What about the one you're partying with Jeffrey Epstein and you're pointing at girls? How comes we see pictures of you and Jeffrey Epstein enjoying life? How come back in the day you said he was a terrific guy? You knew the type of women he liked. And he also, there are so many interviews of him saying the things that you like. And all of a sudden, you never wanted anything to do without the same guy that you've praised, the same guy that you've partied with, the same guy that you brought your kids around, the same guy that said the first time you bunked your wife was on his private plane. Said this, the first time you bunked your wife was on his private plane. And now you're trying to tell us that, what is this man trying to cover up? Because if there's nothing, you will say release the files. After all, I'm not in the file, but what's his name? Bill Clinton is in the file. Bill Gates is in the file, but I'm not in the file. So guys, release the files. You can only point finger that he was there, he was there, he was there. But you keep saying you were not there when there are pictures, everywhere there are videos, interviews. There are interviews of Jeffrey Epstein talking with you, saying that you guys were best friends, buddies. We are fools. We are fools to sit and try and just say that Donald Trump might be in the file. His name might have been mentioned in the files, but he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything bad. Do you know? I don't know, but from the pictures, from the videos, from the interview of Jeffrey Epstein, there is something that Trump doesn't want people to know. There is something that Trump maybe doesn't want his wife to know, his children to know. There is something that he's trying to hide away from the American public. What is that thing? The files might never come out. Who knows? Or the files might come out after 30 years. Who knows? But definitely there is something that Donald Trump is trying to shield away from the general population.
With what you're telling me, Mark.
Yeah, I understand.
Earlier this month, right? It's at the core of a lot of this that reads in part, and I quote Mark, after a thorough investigation, FBI investigators concluded that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide in his cell. Now, you say you were the one called to identify his body. You had conversations at that time, and you do not accept this finding.
So this is Jeffrey Epstein's brother on the phone.
No, I don't, because what they don't mention in the report, and no one says, is that, after Jeffrey died, the next day I had to go to, number one, to identify his body because I'm the next of kin. There's only there. And they did the autopsy then.
Oh, so did he inherit all the money that Jeffrey Epstein had? Because they said Jeffrey Epstein had almost how much? 500 million. So his brother inherited all that money. This guy must be stinking rich by now.
Dr. Roman, who was the city pathologist, it was her autopsy. And Dr. Bondman was there on my behalf because I had the right to have, the family has the right to have their own pathologist there. And they did the autopsy, and they came out of the autopsy a couple hours
Reporter Michael Wolff says he has more than 100 hours of audio tapes of his interviews with Epstein from 2014 up until his arrest.
This guy is the guy who can speak about what might be or might not be in those files, because he has more than 100, did she say minutes of recorded interview between him and Jeffrey Epstein. And all these people now are saying that, no, Trump might not have done anything. Trump is not there. We don't believe. You don't know shit because you were not there. You never spoke to Jeffrey Epstein. And especially those guys on the PBD platform, Patrick Bet-David and the crew. They keep saying that, no, we don't believe that Donald Trump might have done anything. That if Trump might have done something wrong, the Dems would have used that against him. No, they won't, because they are also in the tape. And that's why they were quiet. Biden wasn't there, but he knows that his people are in that tape. And that's why they kept their mouth shut. Because they were trying to protect their own. But because Donald Trump speaks with he doesn't keep his mouth shut. He went in there and was just blah, 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 blah. And now it's time to call the shot. Jeffrey Epstein was using people from both sides. He was using people from both sides. He had everybody come to his crazy island. He had everybody using his private jet. And that's why the rest they had their mouth. But then Trump came in and yap. And now you guys are trying to tell us that he might just be mentioned in the file, but he wasn't. Donald Trump, somebody who said you can just grab the women by the P-U-S-S-Y. Somebody who said I'm attracted to beautiful girls. When I see them, I just grab them and kiss them. Somebody who's been to court uncountable times for sexual assault. Somebody who said, because I own the girls who are doing the beauty pageant, I am the only one who can go in there when they're naked to examine them as if they are his properties. Somebody who has been married how many times? Who has cheated on his wife multiple times. Somebody who was on the phone trying to trap men so their wives can listen to them sleeping with other women. And you are trying to tell us that Donald Trump might not have done anything that could land him in trouble? Nah, you guys are joking.
In 2019. And in those tapes, first published by the Daily Beast, Wolff says Epstein told him numerous times about his close friendship with Trump. Here he is 2 years before his death in 2017.
So how do you know this?
That was close to straight, 10 years.
And Michael Wolff is out front now.
You hear that? How do you know this? I was Donald Trump's closest friends for 10 years. And this is Michael Wolff.
He is the author of All or Nothing, How Trump Recaptured America. And Michael, I'm really grateful for your time. I'm grateful for you sharing some of this with us and with our show. So you estimate you talked to Epstein for more than 100 hours, which is absolutely incredible in and of itself.
More than 100 hours. Not minutes. More than 100 hours. He spoke to Jeffrey Epstein. And some people who never even spoke to Jeffrey Epstein, who never interviewed Jeffrey Epstein, are trying to tell us that Donald J. Trump might not have done anything wrong and is trying to cover up the files. Why would you be covering? Yeah, you might cover up the files because you're trying to shield people who support you, right? But if you claim that you're not in the file and they're putting pressure on you to release the files and burn everything down. Burn everything down. If they committed crime, they should go to jail.
Did a lot of interviews.
You know, it's just me and you. You're going to have a great time. Be up here at 3 o'clock. We can go upstairs. Come on, you must have had a better wife, right? I said, yes. Tell me about it. And the wife's on the speakerphone listening down and said, you know, I know I think you're really hot. And I know you think you're a guy. Michael is like the end of the world, the best guy on earth. You will be married to him. You're wrong. Just listen to the next 20 minutes. And go with the new office, set you up.
That's obviously Jeffrey Epstein's voice, telling a story the way that he said Trump would have done it. Essentially, I guess, would be breaking up a marriage in a case like this. And Michael, people have long claimed Trump did this. What
they're saying is Trump always tries to break up people's marriages so he can sleep with their wives. That's how evil this man is. And some people are trying to protect him. Anyway, guys, if you want to follow this interview, you have to go to CNN and check it out. It's fascinating. Once you listen to this interview, then I think you'll start to have some suspicion about Donald Trump and the cover-up. But we don't know how far this is going to go. And we don't know if the files are ever going to be released, or maybe someone will set fire in the whole place and just say the files were burned. That might happen. I don't know, but if you ask me if these files are ever going to be released, I doubt, because so many people are going to go down. So many people will go down. So I don't know how Donald Trump is going to find a way to bury this, but he has to bury this. He has to bury it. Anyway, folks, if you can drop a like, subscribe to my channel, let me get to 100,000 subs. That would be awesome. Until then, keep safe, be good, peace out.